Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Grab yourself a cup of tea and let's talk some boxing. Now Joyce versus Carlos Takam. This is going to be an interesting one because yes, Carlos Takam is not the same fighter he once was. He's a little bit older now, a few more miles on the clock. But are we believing that he still can't bring it? He still doesn't have that speed. I mean, he's not the fastest of fighters, but he's fast enough. He punches hard, he moves forwards, and he's a nightmare for many fighters in the heavyweight division, just because he's difficult to control. Now, Joyce isn't really going to be someone who tries to tame him and control him early on, because what Joyce normally tries to do is fight fire with fire. So he will be going forwards, he will be trying to establish a foothold in the contest, not necessarily looking to just outbox him, make him fall short. Joyce will do that at times, but I would imagine we can expect to see a real spectacle here because Carlos Takam won't want to take a step back. Joyce won't want to take a step back. I mean, look at the punches that Joyce was absorbing from Daniel Dubois. So he has shown he can stand up to a powerful puncher and someone who just continues to come forwards and tries to press him. Now, Carlos Takam is a little bit different to Daniel Dubois. Dubois is someone who won't necessarily press the action as much as Carlos Takam, and that is why I'm so intrigued by this contest. Yes, I know there are going to be those who say that Carlos Takam is past it, and Joyce should be walking straight through him. Not necessarily the case. I mean, I believe that if Joyce wants to move on to Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, those guys, which he is talking about, then yes, of course, he has to beat Carlos Takam, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a foregone conclusion and an easy fight for him. Far from it. I think that this is an intriguing contest because I think that Joyce will have to show certain things in this fight to get the victory. Can he get a stoppage? Possibly. I don't think that Joyce is the hardest of punches. I don't think he's got that one punch power or explosiveness to his punches. But neither does Carlos Takam. I mean, most of Carlos Takam's knockouts have come through accumulation as opposed to one big punch, much similar to Joyce. They both wear their opponents down and perhaps get a stoppage through accumulation. I mean, it wasn't one big punch against Daniel Dubois, it was many of them, landing in a similar point. So Joyce has proven he can measure his punches, and while yes, he's not the fastest of fighters, he can still find a way to land those punches. I mean, Alan Babbage done some sparring with Joyce, and he spoke about that, about how slow Joyce really is. He said that it's different when he's in there in the ring compared to watching it from outside. Joyce is actually quicker than he may seem, and he does measure each and every punch extremely well and navigates the ring very well. So that makes it a little bit easier for Joyce to land those punches despite not necessarily having that explosive power or speed to get to his opponent. So in this fight, as I said, neither fighter will want to take a step back. At some point, I would imagine one of them will adjust, because I don't think we can expect them both to stand there in the center of the ring and slug it out for 12 rounds. I would imagine at some point, maybe Joyce will think, okay, I need to get this guy on a jab. I need to try and start winning these rounds, because I don't think this is going to be one that goes 2 or 3 rounds. This is more likely to go into deep water towards 9, 10, 11, 12. And again, there are going to be those who say that Joyce should be stopping this guy early, given he's been beaten by AJ Alexander Povetkin. He didn't look all that great in his last fight, and he's on the slide slightly. So therefore, Joyce should be able to go in there and blow him away in a couple of rounds. Yes, that would be the case for, say, someone like Dillian Whyte, Anthony Joshua, because they have that explosive punching power. I don't think we can expect the same from Joyce because he doesn't necessarily have that, so it's going to take him time to break the tough Carlos Takam down and get the stoppage. If he had that one punch power, then perhaps he could get it in a couple of rounds before round 5, but because he doesn't, he has to rely on certain aspects to get him to that point. And that doesn't mean that he's not good enough just because he goes rounds with Carlos Takam, because Takam is a good fighter, and what he is renowned for is being extremely tough and hard to get to. Joe Joyce will have to explore that when he gets in the ring with him. That's why they always say styles make fights, so just because Joe Joyce might struggle against Takam and say Dillian Whyte might blow him away in a couple of rounds, that doesn't then mean it's a foregone conclusion that Dillian Whyte beats Joe Joyce based off of their victory over, say, Carlos Takam, if Dillian Whyte were to fight him and stop him quite early. That's not the way it works, it's just because the style maybe matches up better for Dillian Whyte. Someone who maybe presses him, comes forward, and he can walk him on to that big left hook. I mean, we saw that against Chisora. So if Dillian Whyte was able to do that, then he could get a quick stoppage against Carlos Takam if that were to happen, and if they were to fight. Whereas Joe Joyce will rely on different aspects of boxing to get him the victory. But if he gets the victory, it's still a victory nonetheless. And styles make fights, as we said a few moments ago. So what is important for Joe Joyce is to get the victory. He wants to be explosive, he wants to get the stoppage, and that's great. Brings value for money, entertainment. But the important thing for him at the moment is to beat Carlos Takam and do what must be done in order to get that victory. Along the way, he's going to bring entertainment. His last fight was entertaining, and you can expect nothing less from Carlos Takam. So we are in for a good fight. Neither fighter is going to want to be pushed back. They're not going to want to be pinned back and bullied. That means they're going to stand in the center of the ring for a number of rounds and see who can be left standing. That's why I believe that this is going to be very entertaining for fight fans. Joe Joyce doesn't want to go and underestimate this guy, because that's when upsets can happen, and I do believe that Carlos Takam still has enough left in the tank to give Joe Joyce problems. Yes, he's looking at Tyson Fury, yes, he's looking at Anthony Joshua, and he should be, because he's an up-and-coming challenger, but he cannot get caught up in thinking he's of that level now, so therefore Carlos Takam can't touch him. That's not the case, and I think that perhaps he will learn that in this contest if he does not understand that at the moment. He needs to realise that this is a top contender in front of him. Yes, maybe he's on the slide. Yes, maybe he's not the same fighter he once was. But that does not mean he cannot cause Joe Joyce problems. And I think that Joe Joyce will find it difficult in there with Carlos Takam to begin with, because Takam will try and set a pace that will be difficult for Joe Joyce. He will be of the belief that Joe Joyce is slow and he can exploit certain things. He will try to do that early on. It is down to Joe Joyce to make the necessary adjustments in this contest. So while Tyson Fury is on the radar for him, I mean, he has been instated, according to Frank Warren, as the next mandatory after Alexander Usyk. So as long as he keeps winning, he will get there. But the important thing is that he keeps winning. Anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. Also leave a like and grab that subscribe button. Thanks, guys.